Well, let me give you another. It just strikes me. Let me give you a quick example about the maritime law, the law of water, the law of the sea. Money is water by law. So when a ship, this is why all ships are female by law. All ships, rocket ship, sailing ship, airship, it doesn't matter. If it's a ship, it's female.
Right.
Because the captain always refers to his ship as she.
Right.
She's a good ship, or she's done this. Why she? Because she delivers the product.
Right, the
Without
vessel.
she, there is no product, right?
It's a vessel. It's a
Of course, it is a vessel. So is your body. It's a vessel that produces a product.
Right.
So when the ship pulls into harbor, it stops, and where it parks is called its berth. It's berthing a ship, or she sits in her berth. And every item on that ship, coming out that ship, is money. It's money changing hands.
Right.
And it came in on water. So it's called. So every piece has to have what is called a certificate of manifest, because she is sitting in her berth. That's why when you were born,
I had a birth certificate.
your mother's water broke. You were inside a container of water. Her water broke, and you came out, and therefore you have to have a birth certificate.
Wow.
And it's got to be signed by the dock, because that's where the ship is sitting. The dock is where the ship sits.
That is funny.
So once you begin to see how the words and terms are all based on maritime admiralty, the law of water, the cash flow, the liquid asset.
But is that just in English, the dock, the water?
Yeah, of course. But of course, it goes all the way back to the English or British domination of the seas.
Oh.
And so when the British began to dominate the seas, the Knights Templar Masonic Order of the Knights Templars, who have been in the middle of Asia, came back into Western Eastern Europe, brought all of these concepts, and it was developed into a commercial system of words and terms and symbols, which are used in courts and government and corporations. You know, your body is a corporation. No, that's a whole story. We could talk for hours on this, but your body is a corporation.
Of cells, you mean?
No. It's called, and by law, your body, your physical body is a corporation. And so when you die, you're a corpse. Because when you're living, you're a corporation. You are a business. And hanging out with that person is bad business.
Right.
Or who I hang out with is none of your business.
Right.
Because your body is a business.
Wow.
And so you say, well, you know, what you're doing with her or him is bad business.
Right.
But, of course, if you get married and she's very wealthy, you say she's of good stock, right? Words and terms are based on maritime admiralty, the law of water. And so that's why when you go into a court, you have a fence and a gate. The people sit out here, and the judge sits inside. The gate is called a floodgate. When you go through the canal, you have a floodgate.
Right.
So when you're sitting out here, you're in the law of the land. The judge has no control or no jurisdiction over the people sitting out here. No jurisdiction whatsoever.
Right, because they're outside the gate.
That's outside the gate.
Right.
That's on land.
Right.
But when you walk past that gate, now you're in hot water. And someone's going to have to bail you out.
Bail, yeah.
Okay.
Bail. Did you write a book about all these maritime?
No, I've just been studying it for 48 years.
Wow.
But it's fascinating because when you understand that the whole subject is so large, and it would take hours and I'd have to go back to square one and walk through all the words and terms that are used in law and courts and in commerce.
Yeah.
For you to understand how pervasive this concept of water is on the earth.
Wow.
The law of water, maritime admiralty, it's an extraordinary story about how governments rule the world. And unless you understand this, you're never going to figure out what's going on. Look at it. When you walk into a courtroom and they call your name, you get up and you put your hand on the gate. And you open the gate. The moment you put your hand on the gate, by international law, you of your own volition have opened yourself up to Maritime Admiralty Law, because you were on the law of the land. As long as you don't touch that gate and go through it, you haven't opened the floodgate. Now, once you open the floodgate, there's a piece of wood on top of that gate, and it's called the bar, and you're not licensed to pass the bar. So what you've done is you've opened the floodgate, but you weren't licensed to pass the bar.
So what does that
So
mean?
that means that you are dead. You are now dead. Once you
Because-
touch that, you are dead.
Because you're no longer in control of
That's
your...
right.
of
You are
your-
dead. Well, you're considered to be a dead man. That's
Because-
why the attorney has to speak for you. He has to
But
represent
why
you.
are you dead? Because
You went into the deep water and you died. You drowned.
Because you weren't licensed, because you weren't...
Right. You were not licensed to pass the bar. And the bar represents a sandbar in the ocean. But the bar is what the attorneys are licensed to pass, but you're not. So the point being is that when you open that gate of your own volition, you are considered by law to be a dead man.
Really?
That's why you cannot talk to the judge, because dead people don't talk to judges. So you will need an attorney who is your mouthpiece. He speaks for you because you're dead.
Well, should we do away with courts so people can get their lives back?
I would think that what you want to do is understand how the system works.
Oh, and avoid it.
Well, avoid it if you can.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are here in Maui, Hawaii, and my name is Federal-Postal-Judge, David-Wynn, Miller. I punctuate my name with a : because it creates a prepositional phrase. I use a hyphen to make my David Wynn a compound fact, and then I follow that with a : to identify my surname, which is Miller. So it's for the David Wynn of the Miller family, because colons are prepositional phrases to express a fact. You also use it in your digital time, your colons. Now, what we're going to do today, we're going to have 5 different segments here. And we're going to go through the parts of speech and explain what the parts of syntax are when it comes to writing. We are then going to explain how the parts of a sentence are constructed. Then we're going to go to the way that the federal government has created over 40 million mortgages under the fraudulent conveyance of language under the laws of Title 18, 1001, and Title 15, Section 1692E under false and misleading statements, Title 18, Section 242, deprivation of rights under coloring of the laws. And we're going to explain the sentence structure from the mortgage and how it is used as fraud. We're going to explain the sentence structure used by the attorneys to support the mortgage, how they are using fraud. And then we're going to explain how the banking system uses your money to make you both the borrower and the lender. So the bank goes ahead and they take your Social Security money and they lend it to you. The bank does not have title to the property. They do not have a note because it's been written in modified grammar and all the numbers are boxed. They don't have a contract because it's bastardized, written in fiction language. This is straight lines and curved lines on a piece of paper called ART, A-R-T, which is a vowel and 2 consonants, which means no contract. So therefore, if you put things in perspective, when they're using their words called real property, RE being no contract, and property being no person's contract, they're telling you, they're advertising to you through parcy that we have no contracts here, that you are a nothing. We nom de guerre your name. Now, if you look up nom de guerre as a dead person, pseudium, and you look at the laws under maritime codes, can a dead person own land or write contracts? The answer is no, it's forbidden. So they go ahead and they bastardize the grammar, so there is no contract. And no is an adverb making a negative adverb, which makes contract into a verb fiction. Again, this goes into a vicious circle of modification and trickery and deception over and over and over again. And when we go ahead and we bring a correct parse syntax grammar document to the court, everyone's familiar with the date 12/21/2012? The Mayan calendar, the beginning of the end of the world. Thou was an adverb making end to be a verb. Thou was an adverb making world to be a verb. We ended the world of verb that day. by ordering open Benjamin Franklin's Federal Postal Court, July 4, 1775, retroactive under Title 42, 1986, for knowledge of a crime and the authorization to stop and correct it. Russell J. Gould and myself issued new oaths of office written in the correct parse syntax grammar. As two, we make corporation, and we also issued a new bank charter and a new court charter of how grammar will be used in a correct parse syntax grammar format to decisions on what documents are being filed in the court system. And by doing that, using physical evidence and staying within the confinements of our charter, we now have the correct basis to stop and correct this type of a lie from happening, and this has been done 64 million times in the United States. Now, when the bank goes ahead and they take your mortgage, as soon as within 3 days of you signing your mortgage contract and your note, they then take and they sell that, what's called a securitized backed asset, to Wall Street. Or they sell it to another bank which bundles it up. The little banks will sell it to a big bank. The big bank will turn around and sell it to Wall Street, which then sells it to foreign investors as a securitized backed asset. Do they have title to your property? The answer is no, like you have title to an automobile. They can't produce the title, and when you ask the bank, where's my title, they're going to say, we don't have to show it to you. That's because they don't have it. They are only a servicing agent. They have never risked any of their own money. They have only taken your own Social Security account and created an illusion to get the money from the Treasury, which is actually a bank robbery, because this document is a lie. That means that they did not have a contract to take that money out of the Treasury in the first place. That's the same as a bank robbery. And if they committed that bank robbery, that's a crime, and it vacates their ability to contract with you. But they're out there every month, and they're asking you for money. They continue to generate a no-contract language and frustrate the individual. When you went to school, they did not teach you to read and write above a second-grade reading level. The first thing the teacher taught you when you were 8, 9 years old, never start a sentence with a prepositional phrase, so that you could never create a fact. You can have 99 prepositional phrases in a row and put one adverb verb in there. That adverb verb represents the number 0. And any number, no matter how large it is, multiplied times 0 equals 0. Any number divided by 0 equals 0, no matter how big it is. And so what they did here is they threw in and modified anywhere in the sentence, and they created a lie. In the world of infinity lies, they have the world to lie. They can only be correct once with 3 plus 3 equals 6. But in the world of lying, they have an infinity of the ability to be wrong, to teach us how not to read and write, to be wrong. And what was Pandora's box? You open Pandora and you release all the evils in the world. The Pandora's box was the mathematical interface on grammar. That it showed that man never went to war over a math problem in the history of this planet, over a math problem, but have been killing each other through modification of grammar and stealing property through false and misleading sentences since the beginning of written time. And individuals' voluntary participation in the, I guess you could say, the greed factor, the need to have a roof over your head, to need to supply your family with shelter, is so strong you will do anything. When we were 18 years old, sex was on our mind. We had to have a fast car, good clothing, and they wanted us to sign up for a Social Security, and you had to have your Social Security card in order to get a job, to make the money to buy the car, to get the clothes, to attract the opposite sex. Then you had to build shelter for the opposite sex, and henceforth jump into a mortgage that you couldn't read and write because they never taught you how to read and write in school. So this thing has been a setup, and it was established in 1888, called securitized backed assets through Wall Street. So they knew what they were doing 135 years ago when they set this whole plan in motion. The thing that they never figured on was that we were going to break the code, publish the mathematical interface on grammar, and expose this. On January 6, 2008, I syntaxed Washington Mutual's mortgage. They were presented with the documents on Friday. They closed at $60 a share. On Monday, they opened at 10 cents a share and filed bankruptcy. The other 38 banks in the United States ran in and picked up, Washington Mutual's bankrupt corporate mortgages, and within 6 weeks lost 95% of all their value when they got their own lawsuit filed. And we syntaxed, and they found out what they just bought, that all 64 million mortgages were a lie. And within 2 years, 25 million of the 64 million mortgages were in foreclosure, putting our unemployment rate between 16 and 18%, and throwing 110 million of our 350 million population into no housing. When the court summons you when this fiction court summons you to come to court, they're asking you to leave the Hawaii territory. The courthouse is a foreign vessel in dry dock. Now, we had a federal courthouse here in Maui in Wailuku Heights. It was built in 1888, about the same time securitized-backed assets were authorized. It was the original post office turned into the federal courthouse. And did you know that on March 8th, 2013, Hawaii became a sovereign country? It is no longer in bankruptcy with any country on planet Earth. On January 6, 2008, is when we filed the quantumized constitution, which I wrote for the Hawaiian Kingdom, and 22 Kaponas signed it. It was presented to the World Court at The Hague, and it was authorized to be a correct written document. 3 days later, under the rescission law, all banks in Hawaii that were offshore from foreign governments left the islands. We have not had offshore banking since January 9th, 2008, to show you that you were always sovereign. Now, in 1893, when Hawaii, January 17th, 1893, Hawaii was invaded by the United States. Queen Iolani was a 34-degree Eastern Star working for the Mason across the street at Lodge Number 1. And so when the senior Mason, who was the Postmaster General of Hawaii, told Queen Iolani to stand down, because the Mason, the Master Mason, captain of the military ship coming here from the United States, told him that he had orders to take over the Hawaiian Islands. She had to stand down and surrender Hawaii. But what was the condition of Hawaii? Hawaii filed bankruptcy with the World Bank out of Switzerland and the Rothschild family on the 22nd of October, 1871. Hawaii was under bankruptcy protection. And the United States was under bankruptcy protection from the IMF. How does the bankrupt corporation called the United States of America invade the bankrupt corporation of the state of Hawaii, or the Hawaii territory? It can't. Totally illegal. Has been illegal the whole time. The United States of America came out of bankruptcy on November 2nd, 1999, and for 1 year under maritime law of salvage, plus a 90-day federal law, did not exist. The United States did not elect a president in 2000. They had to wait 90 days counting ballots. And on February 2nd, 2001, they became the United States of America Corporation. Anybody could have ran for president and been elected as president of the United States. Bush was appointed. But now, the United States is out of bankruptcy, but Hawaii is still in bankruptcy. A sovereign country can't invade a bankrupt corporation. Hawaii should have been vacated on February 2nd, 2000, but they weren't. So there's a lot of international law violations taking place here. A lot of maritime law violations taking place here. And we articulated and wrote contracts to these effects, and we filed them at the World Court at The Hague. In 1997, I was commissioned by the Kapunas to write contracts mathematically certified frontwards and backwards. I'm not allowed to interfere with any religion, customs, policies, only to make sure that the math was correct. And then when we presented and did seminars for the people of Hawaii and showed them how grammar has to be so mathematically perfect that it can't be modified, written frontwards or backwards, it says the same thing. We had to certify as a group, the 22 kupunas, and we all worked together for months to make sure that every sentence that had to be said was said and presented in this Constitution. When it was sent to The Hague only took 5 days of looking at what was correct and said the Hawaiian people are now correct. They have a constitution that is correct. And therefore, they have their independence. They don't need somebody babysitting them like the United States. Even though we use the United States dollar here, we still have a constitution that says we can read and write, and all the documents that have been filed since those days have been all written in the correct parse syntax grammar. And we continue to police fraudulent grammar like this and bring it to trial. We contact the Department of Justice, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau out of Iowa City, Iowa, the postal inspectors, criminal division in Chicago, because these things go through the United States priority mail as fraudulently conveyed documents. You know what they say? These are not government employees, therefore we don't have any jurisdiction. The least common denominator between all these things is the American flag. The FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the KGB. Yeah, we send stuff to Russia. In 1998, shut down the entire postal service in the United States for 2 years, for 2 whole weeks. Because the Russians came back and said, hey, we got a document here that's written in the correct parse syntax grammar, translated in the Russian in the correct parse syntax grammar. In 6 weeks after that, Russia collapsed. The Senate, the Congress, the legislature of Russia were taken over by the KGB, and the Supreme Court were all put under arrest because of false and misleading statements. These documents, when they saw them, changed the entire politics, and the Cold War ended. And Russia became a capitalist country like the US. That was the first one to go down. When the United States government saw this here, the only thing they keep doing is we're asking the criminals to police the criminals. But if you look at their oath of office for all these different divisions, they're written in adverb verb, italicized and placed into a box, which say nothing. So they're not authorized to carry a gun or a badge, because of the fictitious conveyance of language that they have perpetrated on the American people. And to make sure that the American people can't read and write, they hire a principal, PRI, no contract individual, to run roughshod over all the teachers of that institution to make sure that they do not teach the students the correct parse syntax grammar, so that when they graduate from school, they can be harvested.
That we operate under is not law. Okay, if you are a U.S. citizen, you're operating under public policy. Now, a lot of us think that public policy is the same thing as public law. We haven't had any laws at all since 1933. So what we have is we have a policy that you're operating under by consent. So with every policy that they try to pass, or they do pass, they call it an act. Now, if you've ever been to a play at school for your children, they're in a play and it's an act, okay? And so you can tell that they're acting because they have on costumes. And so when they passed the Department of Motor Vehicles Act, they made sure that you knew that you were participating in an act and it wasn't real. Okay? That's why they dressed up all the actors. We have costumes on the highway patrol. We have costumes on the sheriff department. We have costumes on the judge when you get there. You're participating in a suit when you get to court. Suit comes from the word suit. This guy is in a suit right now, and so the attorneys wear suits. That's their costume. And you show up and you're supposed to dress just like a citizen. And most of you tonight are dressed like citizens. That's how we dress when we're citizens. So what I'm saying all that for, if that makes sense, is that if those were all laws, there would only be 10 of them there. Do you remember the guy, the Joker, in that movie? And the guy says, how many of your friends did I hurt? And he goes, 5. And he goes, 5. So there's only 10 laws, okay? The rest of them are called statutes or codes, and they all fall under acts. Now here's the good news. I said all that to say this. In every act, in every statute, in every code, there's a remedy. And the remedy is not there for citizens. It's only there for the real man. Okay? Now when I say the real man, that's who you think you are. Okay? The flesh and blood. There's always remedy. There's remedy everywhere. I can't believe how many times I've heard in the last couple of weeks someone call me and say, I'm going to court for a dog barking ticket. And I'm going to do this. What do you think? Sounds good. Try it. You know what I'm saying? Now, all these acts, you're participating in them by consent. And one of the things that I'd like to talk about maybe the next time we come is the Pledge of Allegiance. The other consent that we have is when you gave up title to your car. You turned it into a vehicle and you entered it into the play. And so now you're no longer a traveler, you are a driver or you're an operator. And travelers don't get tickets. They can't. There's no law against traveling, even at the speed of sound.
A license plate?
Yeah.
I'm not eligible for those benefits, actually.
You're not eligible for the benefits of a license plate?
Did you read the legal notice in the back window?
Ah, okay, I got you.
Hey, sir. I don't want to talk to anybody, but can you at least give me a shot to talk to?
I'm not refusing to talk to anybody, sir. It's not. Can I actually identify yourself, though? I just want you guys to identify yourself because you guys are unlawfully detaining me. This is an unlawful detainment, is what it is.
I know you think it is, but it's not. Okay?
It is because I'm not a state citizen. I'm not a citizen of any state. So in order to be
You're driving on our roadways.
I'm not driving, and this is not a vehicle. I'm not driving. Driving is a commercial term, and I'm not operating under commerce. There's no paid cargo. There's no passengers on board. Okay. These are guests on board.
I'm not going to dispute that part with you. I'm not going to even argue
with you. It's a federal offense what you guys are doing, and it is absolutely. It absolutely is.
Okay.
I will have you guys in civil court. It is not a question.
I'm sure you will.
I would like to be free to go on my way.
Okay, you will be as soon as we can check out a couple things. Okay.
Like what?
First thing we need to do is we need to verify the VIN on your vehicle. Okay, because you don't have a tag on it.
Okay.
So we need to verify the VIN. If you let us do that, you'll be gone pretty soon. Okay.
So if I give you the VIN number, I'll be free to go.
Not as soon as you give it to me, as soon as I check it out.
And it comes back good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to give you my VIN number. I'm going to do it under duress because you're threatening to arrest and detain me.
Okay. Just so you know, you have to be able to read the VIN on your car. All right?
But this is not a car, sir.
Okay.
Under the definition of the law, not state citizenship, not the legal system, sir. Under the legal system, sir, the law of the country, this is not a car, it's a motor vehicle. Or it's not a motor vehicle, it's not a car, it's private conveyance. I'm sorry. It's American national. I'm sure you've heard of this. You're a member of the legal department, the state government. I know you've ran into nationals before here and there. I know of it. I know you have. We have Native Americans around this whole city everywhere you go out here. They're American nationals. They are without contract to the state. They're what's called without the United States, any way you want to look at it. A person that's without the United States is without the United States. They can't be forced to compel or contract under statutory law. There's common law jurisdiction. I operate under common law only.
Sir, can I ask you this too? Would you identify yourself to me, at least by name?
Legal and lawful. Would you like my legal or my lawful name? Thank you.
The name that's on your birth certificate.
I don't have a birth certificate.
You're never born with a birth certificate?
No.
Never filed? What's the name that you use legally then?
I don't have a legal name. I don't have a legal name.
So you said legal or lawful name. What's the difference?
The legal name is one that belongs to the state or the corporate entity, the legal name of you.
You don't have a name like that?
I don't have a, no.
You never used a name like that?
I have in the past, but all those are rescinded.
Hawthorne, out of Hawthorne, Nevada. You have an arrest warrant. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you might want to take care of that so it doesn't go further on something like that. I'm just going to admonish you about all these things, give you a warning today. Do you have any questions from me, sir?
Under Nevada revised statute, I can see where how you're explaining that.
All
yeah.
right, thanks, sir.
Yeah,
And
for people that are contracted
is there any other
under the
questions?
state. No, nah, that's
All
it.
right, well, you're free to go. Just like I said, to avoid grief, it's probably a lot easier because this is going to happen again.
It's
And
not
I'm gonna
easy
tell you-
because it costs a lot of money. They want $1,500 for me to register this car, and
So
I'm not.
I get it, it's my
that's
money,
why
but here's the deal.
it's about where does that money go. We had 5,000 women and children bombed to death in Pakistan from drone strikes of this country. That's where that money goes.
Okay.
All the money, you know,
Well,
like
I
money
actually-
rolls uphill like shit rolls downhill. You
I
know,
get it.
like and it
I
all
don't
goes
necessarily agree with
to,
everything our country does either.
yeah.
No, thank you.
No? All right, you guys have a safe day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
There's no law. I guarantee you. There's also no law for a traveler to carry a license. There's only licenses for operators and drivers. So if you understand all that stuff so far, I'm going to show you how this all started, because it's kind of like building a house. When you come up to a really nice house that's already built, you just get to notice how big it is. You can't break in. It's got an alarm system. You've got all these things going on with this house. The water, you don't see where the water line comes in. You don't see where the sewer goes out. It's all hid. And so that's where we come in. We come in, we're born into this, I want to call this onto this land, and pretty soon they've got us believing that we have to participate in the play. And so we see our government already structured this huge thing, and we don't see all the sewer going in and the water coming out. I said that right. We don't see the money going into the pipes, and we don't see the money going out of the pipes. Okay? We don't get to see any of that. But if you go back and see pictures of how the house was being built, you can see the backhoe out there on a piece of dirt grading off the weeds. I'm going to tell you this. People call and they say, what is the Republic doing? Well, the Republic, for one thing, we're educating as fast as, if I'm in a bank line trying to cash a check, and somebody says, boy, is this economy crooked? I go, we're standing in the biggest bank robbers of all time, right here. He goes, where? I go, right here. They're on the other side. They're robbing us every time we get here. And I talk about it all the time because you never know who you're going to run into that is looking for what we're doing. And I got to tell you right now, the season is perfect. I mean, it is perfect right now. I don't have anybody say, oh yeah, that George Bush, he was great. Or that Jimmy Carter, boy, what a great guy. Everybody's just sick of everything. You know what I mean? The lights are turning on. So I'm going to get into the 3 contracts with you real quick so you understand some of that stuff. When you consider the historical facts, the only meaning left for the terms given in the opening paragraph of the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871 and that which follows is that it's a municipal corporation that was created is a private corporation owned by the actual government. And it's saying the government, but it's not saying our government. So what government owns it? The only government created in that act was the same government any private corporation has within operation of its own corporate construct. Thus we call it a corporation US. Now with any corporation, there's investors, okay, there's a board of directors, there's a secretary, and there's a treasury. Now the good part is that all sounds, when I first started hearing this stuff, it was very depressing because I thought, man, we're locked in. The good news is we're sovereign. We can change our mind. You can go back and nullify contracts. You can, let me explain one quick thing about contracts, okay? How do you cancel a contract? Go ahead.
Bankruptcy.
When you're a dead person, that's about the only way you can. But if you're in honor and there's a contract, I have an agreement with him to take out his trash every Saturday. okay? And I sign it, or I don't sign it, doesn't matter. There's a trust there that I'm going to take out his trash every Saturday. After about 10 years of it, I go, golly, I can't even leave on the weekends. So I say, okay, I'm going to amend our agreement. That's what amendments are for. So I let him know, hey, Brad, for 10 years I've taken out the trash for you, and I need to leave on the weekends. So what I want to do is I want to amend our agreement. I want you to take out your own trash for the next 10 years, and if you have a problem with that, you have to let me know in 21 days. If you don't respond, I'm going to accept your response as no response as agreement. And if you get mad at me, okay, and you cuss at me because you didn't respond properly, it's $1 per cussing. And this is a self-executing contract. So if you say you don't get it, too bad. I know you got it because I'm going to have Bob Jones, the next door neighbor, hand deliver it to you, and he's going to testify that you got it. And by the way, I want you to respond to Bob Jones, the next door neighbor, because if he says you didn't respond, this contract is in full effect. That's how you amend or you cancel a contract. So if we're in honor, there's no fighting. We accept all the terms of the conditions right up to the point where we amend the contract. Is it possible to amend the District of Columbia's contracts? Absolutely. Okay. Now, if I wanted to pull a tricky one to Brad in the contract, okay, I could say, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and give you $50,000 to let me out of this contract, but I put it in square brackets. I'm going to give you $50,000 to let me out of the contract, and I put it in square brackets. Now, there's some guys here that understand contract law. What do the square brackets mean to that contract of that statement?
It means that's not a part of the contract.
Not there.
That's not there. Okay.
It's not there.
So he could say, hey, you said you're going to give me $50,000. Where is it? I go, that's not part of the contract. Gotcha. Now, if he doesn't understand that, it's buyer beware. Too bad for you. Can you pull up the Constitution? When I started listening to Winston Shroud, I did not understand it, but I knew that people in life where they got to be was from listening to Winston Shroud. I forced myself to watch him. It was like eating broccoli that had been dipped in horse manure. I mean, it was hard, okay? It was extremely hard. I could not fathom what he was talking about. And he would go so fast, and he seemed like a nice guy. He's got white hair. He said he was a framer. I mean, he said he had a couple of jobs, and the guys that I was beginning to run around with kept saying, you need to watch Winston Shroud. Choked him down night after night. Sometimes I'd watch the same 15-minute segment of the video 100 times, and so I could understand a little bit. At least I could recite. It was kind of like learning a song. You know, you sing it over 100 times, you can say it even if you don't know what you're saying. You can understand it. And he said, square brackets. A lot of the stuff in the Constitution doesn't pertain to us, doesn't pertain to citizens. Now I knew this because I was the Chief Justice for a little while, and I knew that the Supreme Court had ruled that when people come in and say, I demand my constitutional rights, the judge says, sit down and shut up. If you say that again, I'm going to throw you in jail. And what the reason why is because the Supreme Court ruled that the Constitution, that the citizens are not a party to it. How could that be? It talks about the 14th Amendment and the slaves. They're a part of it. We're all a part of it. That's our Constitution to keep the government below us. Well, let me show you what I found. Article 1. You see how that's written? In the original Constitution, that's how it's written. Let's slide up about, let's go to the 13th or 14th Amendment. It talks about the people a lot. Now, this is just an observation that I made. There's 3, 4, oh, back. Does anybody see any square boxes? The rights of the citizens of the United States. That isn't a part of the contract. It's on there. But citizens don't have rights. It's like jumbo shrimp. Has anybody seen a shrimp this big? There are no jumbo shrimp. There's a little bit bigger ones than the bigger ones, but they're all shrimps. Okay, they're all small. That article right there, 2026, is not part of the Constitution. Now, if you look at the Constitution of the United States, because there's two of them, the opposite brackets are on those ones. Okay? So if you're a citizen, you got to read the second one. And if you're a sovereign, you need to read the first one. That's all there is to it. Now, I've got one more quick thing to tell you. What?
Could you explain the four corners?
The four corners rule? Just a quick thing to have some fun. The next time you get a ticket, if a highway patrolman pulls you over, be real nice. Hand him your license and tell him that's your corporation license. Okay, that's my corporate traveling pass. Have some fun with it, okay? Be nice to the guy. But when you sign your name in the ticket, put a square box around the signature area and make sure it's all locked in, so that it's, and then sign in that box and hand it back to him. Okay? If you guys know what A for V is, go ahead and get that on there too. All right? Now, when you hand that to him, if it gets back to the court, there's no signature on it. Okay? You guys, if you know how to defend that, it's a lot of fun. Okay? I'm just telling you, that's one way to do it. But everything that's boxed in on this thing, now I'm not going to show you all this stuff because this is great for you to go home and turn off 2.5 Men. You don't have to worry about them. They're not recording anymore. So don't watch TV. If you're going to watch TV, just watch maybe half as much as you normally do and get on the computer and pull up Constitution for the United States. Go ahead.
What's the opposite of the square brackets? You mentioned it's the opposite. What are those things?
Okay. Anything that's in a square box, it's called the four corners rule. That means anything that's within a box on a document, it does not pertain to that document. It's like it doesn't even exist. It's empty. It's gone. It's not there.
Is that like a comment?
Well, if you look in a lot of the books where they... I have an old book from the 1800s about woodworking. And they were talking about how they would sharpen blades. And because the book was so old, they used to do almost all their sharpening with a stone and a leather strap. Okay? Well, then down at the bottom, they added something in there that you can get a whetstone on a grinding wheel, and you can do all this with an electric buffer. Okay, so they added that in there, and they put it in boxes, which means that the author didn't write that into there. Somebody put that in there. Okay? So it's really not part of the book. That's the same thing with your credit card bills. If you see a credit card bill, everything is always in squares over to the right. Have you ever noticed that? You want to make a payment? The square boxes. When you put a number in there and you send in a check, because those numbers are in the boxes, your payment never gets put back into your account. You made a contribution to a corporation called Visa or MasterCard, and they're going to sit on that for about 3.5 years, and then they're going to claim it that you abandoned your money. Okay? Now, when you start seeing boxes, I want you to check this out. There's boxes everywhere. Okay? I mean, everywhere. I went into Western Union and sent a friend $200 the other day. What an experience that is! Okay, I had to write in the box $200 to put into the system so that they would transfer it to someone else. The $200 was just an indication of what I would like to be in the system for somebody in a different area. When I signed my name to that union, okay, that name is what put the money into the system. My signature is what created the money. Now, when the money went in there, okay, by my signature, out of thin air, I gave the guy $200 free to do whatever he wanted with. So, are you guys following that? The $200 disappeared. It never made it to him. I signed something that caused the $200 to come in there. Now, as I was leaving, getting ready to go, they go, "We got one more thing for you to sign." I go, "What's that?" They go, "An authorization to transfer the money somewhere else." And I said, "So you're going to get 2 signatures?" How about that? So I signed it again. Okay, now I called up my buddy and I go, "Hey, let me know if they make you sign twice." He goes, "Okay." So he signed once, they gave him the money, but before they gave him the money, they said, "You got to sign one more time here." So what they did is they did a dual transaction for $400, okay? They kept all $400, and I'm sure they gave the IRS their cut, because I created that money with my signature. And I gave them $200 for doing me a favor, transferring the money through a wire somewhere else. Okay? So as you're going along, all these square boxes that were on that, on the Union, what is it called? Western Union. There were square boxes everywhere. I mean, they really got themselves covered. So while you're out there doing commerce, okay, while you're out there doing this stuff, keep your eyes open. Start seeing it. Do you remember that old movie with Roddy Piper? You remember he puts on the glasses and all those people are all jacked up?
They live.
Do you remember that movie? And you could only see them when the glasses were on? Well, I'm giving you a pair of glasses tonight. I want you to wear them. Keep your eyes open. The Word of God says, study to show yourself approved. We got to study, guys. The remedies are everywhere. They're hid everywhere. And all those rules and zones and codes and all that stuff, there's a remedy in every one of them that we can get out, okay, of whatever contract it is. We're having some great success. 3 or 4 places now that we know of that the judges are actually asking for the note, the original note on a foreclosure, to be married to the default judgment. It has to be married according to the laws. Okay? And the judges are starting to stand up. Now, if you don't know where to tell the judge that law is, okay, but that's our remedy. Okay? So look for the remedies. If you find any, please call them in to us so that we can explain it to everybody else. If you guys see anything funny like that, okay?
Excuse me for interrupting.
Sure.
Back to the boxes for a second. Every time I deposit money in the bank, we fill out a box. Are you saying we should not?
No. Now, just understand this, that that's the form of commerce, okay, that we have agreed to. It's gotten so far out of hand that we all have to have a capital letter name on a checking account in order to do commerce. There's a private side and a public side. Your labor is on the private side. What you do for work is on the private side, okay? On the public side, there's an entity with the same name as you. They spell it a little different, okay? That's the transmitting utility in order for you to go into the matrix and go down the street and get some groceries and come back out. Now, the Republic is here so that we don't have to have that, because every time you use that, they charge you a usury tax. Now, the Bible says that's a sin. Usury is a sin. To make money with your money on interest on someone else's hard labor is a sin. But I found the other day that it says it's okay for foreign countries to do that. So if you understand, we're all foreigners in the United States. Or you can look at it the way I look at it. The foreigners are here in my America. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope I touched on some stuff so you guys understand it. Please study. On the website, one of them is called, let me pull it up. One of them is called, if you just pull in there for a search on Google, I put up the Constitution and it came up, The Rape of We the People and the Constitution for the United States. So that one really gets into some really great stuff. But, you know, don't get depressed about it, because there's remedy everywhere. There's remedy in everything that we can do. And so as we move the Republic forward with more and more people and more armies, that's it. The rape of the Constitution, the United States constructive. Constructive fraud. And it talks about how if something's, the Supreme Court ruled on this, if something's totally fraudulent, but it's got some good things in it, we're going to go ahead and allow it. Okay? All through these documents, your mind will start opening. When you go to sign some documents, you'll understand. I mean, I was out in California last week, and I went with a friend to sign a contract for a demolition job. And the guy spun the papers around to him, and they were talking, and he just went to the last page and started signing. And I went, "Oh, golly, what are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I go, "Don't you think you ought to read that?" And he goes, "Well, the guy sent it over to me early, and this is the contract." So I go, "Can I talk to you outside?" I went outside, and I go, "What if it's not the same contract?" And he goes, "That's a good idea. I better go in there and read it." He went in there and made 7 changes to the contract. Now, I'm not saying that either one of them were bad guys. I'm just saying what he understood on the phone and what was on the paper was different. We have all done the same thing. When you go in and apply for a driver's license, you give up title to your right in exchange for a benefit and a privilege. Okay? One of the benefits is if you get hurt on the highway patrol, the guy with the costume on, will call another guy with a costume, it's called an ambulance, and they'll come help you, okay? That's one of the benefits. One of the other benefits is you get to go to jail if you don't pay your bill. The guy that didn't show up in court, the benefit for him acting like a convict is he gets to be a convict. He gets to go to jail. So if anybody's listening to all this stuff, I want you to know that we're going to do this because we're smarter than they are. They stole our country with a pen, and we're going to take it back. It's going to be a ballpoint blue Bic, okay?
State Citizens v. U.S. Citizens Status, April 9, 2019 by Anna Von Reitz. It has come as a great shock to some people to learn that there are two completely separate political statuses in this country that are the result of service obligations of public employees known as either United States citizens or citizens of the United States and those being served, the people of the states. This fundamental fact should be taught to every schoolchild in America, but as a result of lapses and the self-interest of our employees, has not been. The unincorporated states of the Union acting by and through their unincorporated holding company, the United States of America, are the actual landlords and employers of the federal government, both territorial and municipal. The people of the states are the owners and operators of the states of the Union. We are owed the good faith service of all federal employees and agencies and the prompt and correct consideration of our proper political status, once we claim it and properly, explicitly enunciate our will to be recognized as American state nationals or American state citizens. A brief citational history was recently forwarded to me by a reader, and as I like the way this is organized, I am publishing it as an education short course in the subject and as proof, if any is needed, that Americans are naturally lawful persons and occupy a political status separate from U.S. citizens. 1. State citizens v. U.S. citizens. 2. There are two classes of citizens, citizens of the United States and of the state. And one may be a citizen of the former without being a citizen of the latter. Gardena v. Board of Registers 48 So. 788, 169 ALA, 155, 1909. 3. Federal citizenship is a municipal franchise domiciled in the District of Columbia, and the political rights of federal citizens are franchises which they hold as privileges at the legislative discretion of Congress. Murphy v. Ramsey, 114 U.S. 15, 1885. 4. The only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. U.S. v. Valentine 288 F. Sup. 957. 5. Therefore, the U.S. citizens of the District of Columbia residing in one of the states of the Union, are classified as property and franchises of the federal government as an individual entity. Wheeling Steel Corp. v. Fox, 298 U.S. 193, 80 L. ed., 1143, 56 S. Court 773. 6. A U.S. citizen, upon leaving the District of Columbia, becomes involved in interstate commerce. As a resident, does not have the common law right to travel, of a citizen of one of the several states. Hendrick v. Maryland S.C. Reporters Road. 610-625, 1914. 7. There is in our political system, a government of each of the several states and a government of the United States. Each is distinct from the other and has citizens of its own. U.S. v. Cruikshank, 92 U.S. 542. 8. The privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments to the federal Constitution against the powers of the federal government. Maxwell v. Dow, 20 SCR. 448, at PG 455. 9. The rights of the individuals are restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship to the agencies of government. City of Dallas v. Mitchell, 245 SW. 944. 10. It might be correctly said that there is no such thing as a citizen of the United States. A citizen of any one of the states of the Union is held to be, and called a citizen of the United States, although technically and abstractly there is no such thing. Ex parte Frank Knowles, 5 Cal. Rep. 300. 11. This can also be confirmed in the definitions section of Title 5 U.S.C., Title 26 U.S.C., and Title 1 U.S.C. 12. Therefore, a U.S. citizen is a piece of property. If you read any of those old court cases prior to the Civil War where slavery was the issue, the debate was always over property rights. Therefore, a U.S. citizen is a slave. 13. The 14th Amendment defines what a U.S. citizen is. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. 14. The so-called 14th Amendment criminally converts U.S. citizenship completely upside down from what the Founding Fathers intended. 15. A U.S. citizen is a corporation. 16. Summary of 6 pages of Congressional Record, June 13, 1967, pp. 15641-15646. A citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as a co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the PCT, the private constructive, Sestuike Trust of U.S. Inc. under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the USA and U.S. Inc. in Section 4. 17. It is evident that they, U.S. citizens, have not the political rights which are vested in citizens of the states. They are not constituents of any community in which is vested any sovereign power of government. Their position partakes more of the character of subjects than of citizens. They are subject to the laws of the United States, but have no voice in its management. If they are allowed to make laws, the validity of these laws is derived from the sanction of a government in which they are not represented. Mere citizenship they may have, but the political rights of citizens they cannot enjoy. People v. De la Guerra, 40 Cal. 311-342 AD 1870. 18. Del Sharp United States Code that uses American national while maintaining no such status as 14th Amendment naturalized citizen of the United States. 19. 8 U.S.C. Section 1502 Certificate of Nationality issued by Secretary of State for person not a naturalized citizen of United States for use in proceedings of a foreign state. 20. The Secretary of State is authorized to issue, in his discretion and in accordance with rules and regulations prescribed by him, a certificate of nationality for any person not a naturalized citizen of the United States who presents satisfactory evidence that he is an American national and that such certificate is needed for use in judicial or administrative proceedings in a foreign state. Such certificate shall be solely for use in the case for which it was issued and shall be transmitted by the Secretary of State through appropriate official channels to the judicial or administrative officers of the foreign state in which it is to be used. 21. Corpus Juris Secundum Section 883 t he United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. 22. 8 U.S.C. Section 1101 a 21 t he term national means a person owing permanent allegiance to a state. 23. 8 U.S.C. Section 1101 a 22 t he term national of the United States means a citizen of the United States, or b a person who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. 24. American national does not equal national citizen of the United States. 25. These are two distinct status within the American system. The former is a freeman, the latter is a voluntary slave subject to the jurisdiction thereof created by Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. It is a federally created capacity title that owes allegiance to it. I trust that this is the end of any debate about the issue. If you wish to be considered a U.S. citizen of any kind, you may adopt that status and act as a legal person. If you wish to retain your natural-born capacity and wish to act as a lawful person and act exclusively as an American state national or American state citizen, you may declare your intent and reclaim and record your natural political status as an American, which is what I recommend and what our paperwork process is designed to accomplish. At no time before or since the so-called American Civil War have any of our states been engaged in any form of warfare since 1814. We are owed the law of peace, R. 27161-1 from the territorial government and agreed upon service from the municipal government, which, with respect to us, is limited to perform its operations within the 10 miles square of the District of Columbia. Those of us who declare ourselves and record our political status as peaceful American state citizens are owed all protections and guarantees of both the Constitution of the United States of America territorial government and the Constitution of the United States municipal government without any presumption of the existence of U.S. citizenship obligations of any kind. In the same token, we are obligated by those same venerable agreements to not interfere in the functions of the federal government and to stay in our lane in the day-to-day operation of our own affairs. If we claim our state national or state citizen status, we accept it as our singular political status and/or obligation of citizenship, and we do not claim any other political status in conflict of interest. So, if you are a U.S. citizen, you cannot at the same time be considered an American state national or American state citizen by any state of the Union, even though your federal employer may allow you to claim dual citizenship during your period of service employment and may recognize your actual nationality as that of an American. Please hit subscribe, like, share, embed, and get ready for many more of my article videos.